Actually, before I even get started, I shouldn't be I shouldn't be rude. Hey, Aisha, how are you? Good to see you. Let me see. I want to say hi, Aisha, and I see Alicia and Anita, Pauline, Atasha, Brent, Chris, Claudia, Denise, Dorothy. I see you, Shauna. Thank you, Shauna, for providing support. Shauna is in the chat if you need to talk to someone from our support team. Otis McDonald, good to see you. Errol Simmongall, Henderson Goins, Jay Kelly, good to see you. Let's see here. I see James and Polly and Ranthon, Rarick. And if I did not say your name, it is not because I don't love you. It's because I figured y'all came up in here not to just hear me say everybody's name, but to actually give you some information. So, in case you haven't done it yet, one little way to get little profit alerts that I send out, stuff like that, is if you text the word stock to 31996. And we try to disseminate information in the most effective way in the Black Business School, just using technology to make it easier, sort of redefine the educational process. So, also, as you know, my wife Alicia, she runs our Black Financial Therapy Department. We've created the first ever Black Financial Therapy Department because we are focused on all working with the best therapists to figure out what's the mindset of the wealthy and what is it about our mindset in terms of what we've gone through, our trauma, the things we have to overcome in order for us to get ahead financially. So, long story short, if you'd like to get stuff from Dr. Alicia, she has a great financial anxiety workbook actually right here, and it's really thick and it's got lots of good information. And I know you guys are gonna love it because she's a licensed therapist. Maybe you can't see it. Let me kill my Zoom background so you can actually see it a little bit better. Give me 1 second here. Okay, there we go. That's my real world. So anyway, so this financial anxiety workbook, she spent a lot of time on it. I sat there and watched her put it all together, and she literally breaks down like ways to overcome your financial stress and anxiety, some ways to add happiness to your day, some action strategies to reduce your anxiety. So a lot of you may be experiencing stress and concern about your money. Maybe you're watching your portfolio go down and you don't know what to do. She has 11 powerful ways to overcome fear and anxiety when it comes to investing. They say scared money doesn't make money, so you want to minimize that. Let's see here. She talks about natural ways to reduce your anxiety. When meditation is not enough, ways to use prayer and meditation to reduce anxiety. Figuring out the root cause of your financial anxiety, the use of affirmations, financial well-being, your money timeline. I'm just looking through here. Adverse childhood experiences survey to figure out how high you are on the trauma scale, so you can determine whether or not you need to work on some things. We found that undiagnosed, untreated trauma is the number one barrier to Black wealth because what happens is that you may have heard of the term trauma response, but trauma responses kind of pop up when you are afraid of being re-traumatized. So when you're invested and you see your 401k drop 10%, it can scare the hell out of you to the point where you end up sort of just saying, okay, I got to get out of here. I can't do this anymore, right? Or maybe you get into a relationship and something goes wrong and you say, oh gosh, I got to get out of here because I don't want to be re-traumatized. Well, these little things are massive in terms of blocking you from opportunities and possibilities. So so if you want to take a look at that workbook, I know some of you are asking about that. Just go to drboycebooks.com and just look up in the search box at the top, look up the word Alicia, and you can see all of her stuff. She does a lot. She's an absolute workhorse. And just to know how special she is, there are very few full professors in any field. Most PhDs don't become full professors. So she's not just a person who puts doctor in front of her name. There are lots of people who have honorary doctorates or doctorates that they got, where they study for a year or something like that. She was in her program 5 years. Out of all 5 African Americans that started her program, she's the only one that finished. She's the only one that made it through. All the other ones got eliminated because it was absolutely brutal. And then on top of that, she's the most outstanding faculty member on her entire campus. So she's really good. And she's committed to you. She's B1. And so feel free to go take a look at her book. And if you want to get some stuff from her, just some other free resources, things like that, just text the word wellness to 31996. If you text the word wellness to 31996, you'll get some Dr. Alicia material that way as well. So feel free to take advantage of those resources. All right, so let me hop in, and I want to ask you all this question. How many of you have heard about what's going on at Harvard University right now? Harvard, Yale, Penn, a lot of the top schools right now, they're in the middle of this crazy controversy involving this stuff going on in the Middle East. How many of you have sort of been following that? Has anybody else been sort of paying attention to what's been going on there. If you haven't, let me just sort of give you a summary. Basically, there is pressure, financial pressure from wealthy donors who are using their financial resources to pressure the institutions on what they perceive to be anti-Semitism. And it's really interesting to watch. They actually forced the resignation of the Penn president. The Penn president just quit. They pushed her out. The Harvard president, Claudine Gay, who happens to be a Black woman, she is holding strong. She did not resign. The board did not ask her to resign. And the faculty are pushing back against the wealthy donors because the faculty are saying, this is not fair. You're violating our freedom of speech and, with freedom of expression and all these other things that we believe in, allegedly, which is ironic because Harvard's not very good at free speech. They actually rank schools based on their commitment to freedom of speech. And they found Harvard actually ranked last. So Harvard's not exactly a bastion of free speech. Let's just be clear about that. However, on this particular issue of so-called anti-Semitism, what's really interesting to me, what's really kind of going on, and I'm gonna express my perspective with a little bit of bias, and I express this as a person who spent a lot of time on college campuses, also as a financial guy. I brought this up because this is really an example of how economic power is kind of used to sort of shift narratives or shift realities all around the world. I'm going to just tell you, again, you can think what you want about what's going on in the Middle East. I understand, the attack by Hamas, wasn't a great thing to watch. It was really sad. But, it's clearly imbalance, right? The numbers of Palestinians, women and children that have been killed relative to the number of people that were killed in Israel is much, much higher. I mean, it's like, I think the ratio is maybe like 10-1 or 8-1 or something like that. Right. So I think they've, after they took 1,600 lives in Israel, I think they took another 17,000 lives in Palestinian lives. Right. And a lot of these people are not soldiers. They're not, they're not picking up guns and killing anybody. They're just regular people. And it's all sad. It's all tragic. And that's all I'll say about that. But what is interesting is that money makes the rules a lot of times, right? And what you're watching here is you're seeing Bill Ackerman and some other people that have billions of dollars using their economic power to basically shift the narrative. They're basically saying anybody who disagrees with us is going to be labeled as anti-Semitic, and we don't care what you think because money has a rule that basically says because I said so. Like money basically allows you to come in and say, money allows you to come in and say, I'm going to do whatever the hell I want. And if you don't like it, then, tell me I'm wrong. And then I'll take your money and then you're going to suffer financially because you did not go along with whatever narrative I created. So I always say to you that a big part of the reason that it's important for African Americans to understand economic intelligence and the importance of it is that this is the reality. This is the reality of a capitalist society. We have a lot of these principles. There's kind of like two worlds. There is the world that we think we live in and we would like to live in, and then the world that we actually live in. So the world that we'd like to live in is the one where freedom of speech is available to everybody, that discrimination doesn't exist, that you can go to a college campus and you have academic freedom and all this other stuff. That's the world we want to live in. The world we really live in is a one where money it's a world where money is power. Money is power. So basically, it reminds me of when I was little and I used to argue with my mother a lot, and we would have debates. And she hated it because I was a pretty good debater. I was a pretty smart kid, and then I would start winning the argument. And when I would start winning the argument, she would get frustrated and she would just say, because I said so, right? That would become her trump card. Like, well, you got to clean your room because I said so. And that's how I knew I'd won the argument, right? Because I explained logically why I shouldn't have to clean my room because I just cleaned it and I got to go to basketball practice and blah, blah, blah. Didn't matter. Eventually, she would just say, because I said so. So that was her exerting her power in the household and kind of, reshaping my reality. Well, I think that's what happens to Black people. We have parents, these economic parents mainly the people who control the companies, your boss, the people that control capital, the people who have wealth. And then you come in and you say, well, that's not right. You can't do that because I'm black, or I have the right to speak up and tell you that you don't hire any black managers in this whole division, and that's not fair, or whatever. And then they just say, well, because we said so. And then next thing you know, you're identified as a troublemaker and you get removed from your job. Those things used to make me upset, but now I understand that's just how economic power works. So if you ever really want to have these things that we talk about as black people, freedom and liberty and civil rights and all this other stuff, you better get your economics straight. You better get your economics straight. The only thing that's allowing Harvard to stand by their president right now is the fact that their endowment is $51 billion. So when you have an endowment of $51 billion, you can withstand the pressure of a donor who says, I'm not going to give you my $20 million donation. You say, okay, well, that's all right. Maybe you'll change your mind, but we've got to continue to be who we are. Money gives you the right to stand on who you are without fear of retribution. The only reason, I'll give you a real life example. When I mentioned this before, I had a controversy a couple of years ago where I said, I don't understand why Lizzo is being paid by these record labels to degrade the image of the black woman and to promote obesity in the black community when obesity is the number one thing that was killing black people during the pandemic. What 1 minute they're promoting it, they're telling you that being as obese as possible is a good thing. The next minute they're whining and saying, oh, everybody needs to go get their shots because black people have more obesity than anybody else. Well, how do you get that? Well, because you're constantly telling black people to get sick. I told you that's how capitalism and big pharma works. They'll sell you the donuts at the front of the grocery store and then sell you diabetes medication in the back. Right? This is how they deplete your wealth. They deplete your wealth by selling you the things that'll make you sick, and then they sell you the things that'll make you that will help you manage your illness. That's what they do. So I made that statement. People misinterpreted or whatever, but in the course, the media kind of did what they do. They labeled it like, oh, this professor is sexist and he's fat phobic and whatever. And I didn't care about any of that. But it was in every single newspaper everywhere. Once the Associated Press picks up a story, it's everywhere. So, none of them wanted to interview me to understand or have me explain my perspective. They just kind of ran with this narrative that I'm oppressing this young black woman, which is 100% untrue. I was actually liberating her because I said she's very pretty. She's very talented. I wish black women could just go and do what Taylor Swift did. Be able to go make $1 billion just showing their talent. Why does the talent have to come with twerking and hypersexuality and all these? And this embarrassing buffoonery that we see. Taylor Swift doesn't have to do that, and she can make all of her money. Why can't Lizzo do what Taylor Swift is doing? Well, because you like it when she's jiggling and twerking and sexualizing herself and doing all these things that right now actually are getting her sued. Right, a lot of the things that she was doing on these concerts led to these workplace violations. So she's kind of the female Diddy to a point, in the sense that this culture that is very anti-black, anti-economic, etc. It gets out of control, gets wild, and then later on people turn around and they sue you, right? So anyway, so long story short, here's the economic lesson to pick up from this. As a result of the controversy, I had a speaking engagement. I was going to get paid $10,000 to go speak at the A.G. Gaston Society in Birmingham, Alabama. I'd spoken the year before. They loved the speech. It was a really great experience. And then they said, we loved you so much. We want you to come back. I said, absolutely. I'd be happy to, because I have a lot of admiration for A.G. Gaston. I think your children should all learn about A.G. Gaston, because A.G. Gaston learned from Jewish people how to be wealthy, how to really own things, how to own assets. And so he's a better model for your children than any of these civil rights superstars. No disrespect to any of them, but these people aren't going to teach you how to have the wealth and the power that you really want. They teach you how to go and march and pray and sing We Shall Overcome and everything else. I want the guy that's going to show me how to have enough economic power that I can tell anybody to kiss my entire ass if I want to. Like that what they call that FU money. FU money means you have enough capital, enough wealth, enough resources that you can tell your boss, FU, I'm out, and you won't worry about anything, right? So A.G. Gaston had FU money. Teach your kids about A.G. Gaston. Teach them about Marcus Garvey. Don't wait for the public school system to do it. It's not their job. That is your job. You're the educator. Okay. So anyway, A.G. Gaston, I was going to go speak for them. And because their corporate sponsors were white companies, they pretty much got nervous and they said we had to cancel the speech. Now, here was the deal. I was going to get 10,000 to speak. My fee's actually 20,000 now, so I don't come cheap. My manager has something where we get our security by having people pay the money, half the money in advance. They did. They paid their 5,000 in advance, so we had that. And I was going to lose another 5,000 because of this issue, right? But here's the thing: it didn't bother me at all. I didn't apologize. I didn't change my words. I said I did not stutter. I said what I said. I stand by everything I said. I can defend it to the end. I do not change a single word. Why did I do that? Because I have financial security. Why was I able to do that? 20, 30 years ago, I couldn't have walked away from $5,000. I would have been quiet. I would have shut up. I would have maybe apologized. I would have tried to fix it. I didn't try to fix anything. I did not care. I said, if you don't like me for who I am, that's okay. But I know that I'm right. I believe deeply that I'm correct. And it's okay that you disagree. But I know that you actually know that I'm correct. But you can't agree with me in public, because when white folks are paying your bills, they're going to tell you what to do. And what they does. And here's the thing. I want you to understand this. This is where, when you sell your soul, you're losing your humanity. Right. When you're dependent on other people to get what you need financially, you sell your soul, you lose your soul, you lose your humanity. And what do I mean by that? Well, you're no longer yourself anymore. You can't be you anymore. You have to be a representation and a manifestation of the person who's paying your bills. That's what happens. So effectively, a lot of the inability of Black people to stick together, to work together, to support each other is mitigated by the fact that the white folks paying the bills have always have used their money to control us, to keep us, fighting against each other, right? Because we become puppets, right? I like this puppet. This puppet reminds me of where we are, right? So this puppet has no brain of its own. He has no he has no intention whatsoever. If I tell him to turn left, he's going to turn left. If I tell him to turn right, he turns right. If I tell him to bounce up and down, he bounces up and down, right? So this is the relationship between the Black man and Black woman and racist capitalist America. This is the relationship. The relationship is that they have all the wealth, they have all the power, they have all the resources. So when they tell you to jump, you say how high, and you jump. When they tell you to talk, you talk. When they tell you to be quiet, you're quiet. When they tell you to bow down, you bow down. When they tell you to turn left, you turn left. Right, turn right, right? And so effectively, this is what I see when I see organizations and individuals in our community who can't truly stand up for what is right because they were tricked into letting somebody else control their financial security. So the reality is that from a position of just safety, and security, freedom, all these terms that we like to use, it's very important that you really think carefully about who's paying your bills and make sure that their interests are in line with your interests. Because right now I'm paying this puppet's bills. I got my hand up its back, and I get to control everything that this puppet says and does. This puppet is not a real person. A lot of us as Black people don't get to be real people. We don't get to really pursue our agenda. We don't get to do what we really believe that needs to be done. We can't say what needs to be said. Why? Well, because somebody didn't take the time to give you enough information and preparation to allow you to have true liberation. That's what they did. They left you out here. You don't have any money. So first thing you got to do is go beg somebody who has money to be a sponsor for you. The same way I'm sponsoring that puppet. That puppet does not talk without my permission. That puppet does not move unless I tell it to move. You know, so don't be a damn puppet, and don't put your kids in the position to be puppets either. And I said this to those people at that organization. I said, I understand where you're coming from, but why can't you raise the money to run your own conference so you don't have to bend, fold, and beg and borrow and hope that these white folks will approve of whatever Black man that you choose to associate with? You should be allowed to make your own decision without these people coming in with their agenda and then removing your agenda and making you pursue their agenda. Right? This is how people like myself or somebody like a Louis Farrakhan, who, despite his imperfections, is a person who you can't question whether or not he loves Black people, in my opinion. Farrakhan loves Black people, but there are so many Black people who are afraid to even be seen in a picture with him. Why? What has this man done to you? He's not dangerous. He's not going to hurt you. He's a nice guy. Why are you afraid to be his friend? Oh, well, because the person who pays your bills told you you're not allowed to associate with him. But at the same time, they will encourage you to sit next to people that are very harmful to the Black community, that are very anti-Black. So right now, so when I see, so let's go back to the Harvard thing. Harvard University right now is burning. It's really on fire. I think that their integrity is really being challenged. Harvard's been hit by about two or three different interesting scandals, in my opinion, recently that really degrade the quality of the brand. No, number one, again, they ranked last in the nation in freedom of speech. That was one thing that really surprised me. I kind of thought that the so-called smartest people in the country would actually understand the importance of freedom of speech, but apparently they don't. Number two, the grade inflation is insane at these schools. I don't know if y'all know this, but I think they said something like 95% of the students have a 3.8 grade point average. It was something insane like that. Look it up. Look up grade inflation at Ivy League schools. So if you send your child to Harvard or Yale and they don't come back with straight A's, just know that they're probably not doing their homework. so that's because they give everybody an A, right? Which is just, so the grades mean nothing. It means absolutely nothing. And the third scandal is recently with this anti-Semitism thing, where people are using their economic strength to basically say anything that you say that disagrees with the policies of Israel is going to be labeled as anti-Semitic. And the backlash for them, though, is that eventually no one respects that term anymore. Everyone says, yeah. You say that about everybody who disagrees with you, and you're using your economic power to sort of insulate yourself from honesty, dignity, and truth. And eventually that's just not going to work anymore. But right now, there's a big economic war kind of going on. So what I would encourage you to do, here's the lesson from this that I would like everybody to consider. I think that you want to consider your economic preparation for you and your children to be like a matter of national security. I really do. I think that you should look at it like this is one of the most important things that we can do as a family. This is one of the most important things we can do for our kids. If I get my kid ready, if I got a newborn baby and I love that kid, I'm going to start investing for that child before they're born, not even on the day that they're born. I'm going to start investing before, I have kids in my house now, and it's crazy. They're not even my biological kids, but I love them. I love being their bonus dad. I was preparing for these kids 20 years ago, before I knew them, before they were born, etc. Because I said, one day I'm going to be an older guy, and I want to be able to really be that guy that can protect, right? That can properly protect and provide for the kids, right? So that means I have to have wisdom and knowledge. I have to have some financial security. I have to make sure that I'm emotionally balanced and stable so I can be a good leader, right? So these are all the things I was thinking about 20 or 30 years ago. And so to me, if you're really getting your kid ready for the world, just remember that when you invest for that child before they're born, and it's very easy, just you can do the $5 a day plan. If you haven't gotten it yet, it's at my website, boycewatkins.com, or you can also text the word stock to 31996 and I'll send it to you. And so basically something like that means that by the time my child is 20 years old, they have no less than approximately $100,000 liquid, which liberates them, which puts them ahead of 99% of all Black youth. 99% of all Black people do not have $90,000 to $100,000 that they can get within 3 seconds out of their investment portfolio. And if you do $10 a day, which is less than what we pay on our car note, that's $300 a month. A lot of you have car notes that are more than that. If you do $10 a day, then that number doubles to about $200,000 in 20 years. 30 years, it goes up to between $450,000 and $500,000. This, remember, I know sometimes some of you that have been listening to me for a while think I'm beating a dead horse, but I believe repetition is how you change culture. You have to repeat things in order to understand, or in order to integrate that into your process. Some of you have been hearing me say this for a long time, but maybe you haven't done it yet. And maybe today will be the day that I can convince you to go ahead and get started. But basically, what you're doing is you're not just protecting their financial security, you're protecting their emotional security, right? Because they're not going to have all these stressors that a lot of people have. Most Americans cannot even come up with $500 to pay for one basic emergency expense. So think about this. Imagine your child is 25 years old and they're sitting around all these people that can't even come up with $500 to pay, for a flat tire or whatever. And your child's got a couple $100,000 in the bank. Think about how good they're going to feel. Think about how happy they're going to be. Think about how secure they're going to feel, right? So there's a lot of emotional freedom, and happiness that comes with that, and security. But then also there's going to be a time where they're going to go to war. At some point, if they have the level of Black consciousness that B1 people have, like you've raised them in the B1 culture and you've taught them how to talk tough and identify white supremacy and not fall for the banana in the tailpipe, well, they're going to be a troublemaker. You're building a troublemaker. To some extent, you're sending them off to battle, right? Because it's, for some people, it's easier to not have consciousness. It's easier to not sort of understand what's going on, right? Sometimes ignorance is bliss because then you can at least fit into the system. Like sometimes I feel a little bit envious of Black people who don't understand racism, who fit right into the system, because I just don't. I'm probably radical in that way because I just see too much. I understand too much. So effectively, when you're opening their consciousness up, where they're not living in the matrix and they're seeing all these issues, they're going to say something. They're going to speak up on it. They're going to go to the job and where there's 100 employees and 99% of them are white, and they're going to say this isn't fair, and they're going to be correct about that. But you got to help them understand something that is very important. Truth is not going to protect them when they have no money. Do you understand? Truth is not going to just because what they say is true. Like it's true. Yeah, you have 99 employees, all 99 that are white, one is Black. That's not fair. Yeah, truth is not going to protect them. Fairness is not going to protect them. The government is not going to protect them because they don't. Discrimination suits don't go very far. Righteousness, all these things, esoteric ideas that they share with you when you're a kid. None of those things are going to protect you. But money will show up with the gun cocked, ready to bust a cap on a fool that tries to mess with your child, right? Money will show up like, okay, where they at? What do I need to do? How do I protect you, right? If your child has money in the bank and they know they can pay their bills without their boss, they're going to be able to walk through life with a level of confidence that most Black people do not have. Do you understand what I'm saying? Most Black people are scared. Most Black people are scared as to death of white people. We get very nervous. We don't want to say the wrong thing to Mr. Charlie or whatever. And a lot of it's due to economic insecurity. But if your child is economically secure, then they have that ability. Kanye West, is crazy as he is crazy. All those hours I was on the phone with him, it was very frustrating because I couldn't understand where the hell he was coming from. But one thing that he understood that led to him talking to me and Dr. Claude Anderson is he used to have that song. Remember, he had that song, "Where do I get my money?" Right. And so he understood, and I looked through his finances in extreme detail. He showed me every single thing in his finances. I sat on the phone with his accountants for an hour, and we went through everything. And I said, okay, now I understand a little bit about why you're very confident, because this man has so much money, it's insane. He's probably has, I want to say, between $400 and $500 million. Right. So he can go through life and kind of do whatever he wants for the most part and not really have to worry about the economic consequences. Now, if you want my personal opinion, I felt he was losing an opportunity. I sort of felt like, God, you could go build some schools and do some other stuff. Maybe one day he'll figure that out. But at the very least, he understood the importance of obtaining financial security as a pathway to true freedom. So you can't talk about civil rights without talking about civil rights. And even when you talk about things like voting doesn't really do a whole lot if you don't have the economics to back it up. Okay. And the Jewish community understands this very well, which is why I think the Jewish community is a great template. And I pointed out the thing going on at Harvard to help you guys kind of understand this is what economic warfare looks like. They're not sitting around wondering what's fair or what's right and what's wrong. They don't care about that. They see the same thing you see, right? They're not worried about it. They're like, well, how much of a check, how much money can we show up with, and how much money do we have to use as leverage to get them to agree with our assessment of what is right and what is wrong? Even they don't believe the crap that they're saying. I honestly believe that. Even they don't believe that they're 100% correct. All they know is that they're powerful. That's it. Power creates its own morality. Okay. So get your economics right. Teach kids start their business, get them involved in real estate, get them, invested in the stock market early. And I guarantee you, they're going to have a whole different life from everybody else. All right. So let me go through a few other things kind of happening right now in the market. Let me see here. And by the way, the Black Wealth Calendar is available if you guys want to get one for 2024. If you go to drboycebooks.com, just go to the top. There's a search box. Look for the word calendar. And actually, if you use the code word book club, all one word, you can get 30% off the calendar. And the calendar has financial facts and information and financial literacy tips for every single month. So feel free to do that. You can put it on your refrigerator and kind of get your kids used to seeing financial concepts on a daily basis. So and Shauna's putting that in the chat as well. So feel free to get a calendar. They make great Christmas gifts. So if you want to support the Black Business School, we do not want a donation. We do not accept donations. But if you buy something from us, that helps us complete the mission. So we really appreciate that. But we want you to get more than you invest in us, right? So if you invest, for every dollar you invest in us, we want to give you $5 worth of results. Okay. So I don't want, this is not a charity. This is trade. Okay. So if you'd like to trade with us, we'd love to do business with you. drboycebooks.com is where you can do that. All right. So if you want to talk about some risk factors going on in the stock market right now, geopolitics